Hey everybody, we're back again with the man, Randy Jenkins, aka Gospel Guy. He has some stuff that he's been working on in his woodshed. Talk to us. What you been doing?
Yeah, man. I tried to. I wanted to come up with a way for guys to kind of hear their stuff better, their sounds and stuff. I'm not retired. I'm not playing in church anymore, and I felt like it was time for me to try something different, try a new musical venture. You know, I put out the album in May, and that was really good. But that was more for me. That was just more to, like a purge, just get this music off my chest. And so the sound design thing came about because, quite frankly, I needed income, and guys were.
Money make the world go round.
Really, and they were always asking me, for years, guys would ask me, yo, tweak my module, yo, put some sounds in, yo, give me this, give me that. You know what I'm saying? And that's really how this whole Gospel Guy thing started.
Yeah.
Because
we started on, what was that, the motif?
Well, we did Ableton first.
Yeah,
we did Ableton first, then we did the motif, we did the S90, we did the Chronos, But remember, I approached you like, yo, because a lot of guys were hitting me like, yo, fix my keyboard, yo, can you do this? How do I run Ableton? Because I was running Ableton and stuff for long before our first video back in 2012. And I was becoming kind of popular in this area for that, for the technological stuff. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I could play, but guys were like, yo, what are you doing? How you do that? Like, it sounds like 30 dudes up here. What's going on? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, Joe Wilson days.
I'm glad you said that, man. Yo, man, like, people don't understand that dude. We talking 30, 35 years ago.
Dude, I remember I forgot what year this was. Me and John Peters, we went down to Harlem because his pastor at the time was preaching at a fire baptized church. Church is crowded, so we just hearing all this music. So we're thinking, yo, there's a whole thing going on.
Man.
People sit down, it's just Joe sitting there with, he had the board on top, he was killing so hard. I said, yo, John, it sounds like there's like 2 or 3 guys up there playing.
Yo, man, that dude, and it's crazy.
He was the pioneer, man.
I'm telling you, he was the progenitor. People don't understand. People, these young dudes, and I hate to sound like I'm an old guy. Right? I'm 44, but I'm still kind of young. But, I'm talking about the young, 20s, and the guys in their 20s. And I see them walking around, I'm like, you have no idea how far behind you are.
Do your research.
Yo, Joe, like, man, I thank God for my cousin, right? Daryl, he's the one that put me on to Joe Wilson. Daryl Young, he was one of my first influences. And, I watched him go from being terrible to being outstanding,
amazing.
Right? You was there, right? I'm not lying, right?
Yeah,
he was terrible.
Absolutely.
And he would take cabs from Westchester County
to go out to Orange.
To Newark.
Yeah.
Right? Not be able to get home. He was hungry to get better. You know what I'm saying? And he kind of put that search and that drive in me as a young 9, 10-year-old kid. Like, nah, Ren, you gotta practice, you gotta dig. You know what I'm saying? And he would take me out there to go see Joe, and I would steal his tapes, him and Sean Murray. I'd steal their tapes and listen. And I was still playing drums, but that was, it was getting in my psyche.
Yeah.
And then I was starting to kind of just noodle on keyboards a little bit. This was like '02. I couldn't really play, but I could make beats. And I loved the Girl Director album so much, I learned like all the songs on there. So
that album, classic.
Crazy, right?
Classic.
So he was remember they used to go to Christ Temple a lot in Greenburgh. And so it was him and Jeff Davis. And that was it.
That was it.
Yo, bro, he was playing a broken Trinity, right? With the pitch wheel was broken. He had a VS 1880 with all the stems.
All of his stems.
And he sounded like a million men. And I was sitting on that organ looking at him like this. And I was like,
what in the world?
If I ever get a chance to be an MD, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Because yo, it sounded like the record.
Exactly.
And it was just him and
It was
Jeff.
just him. Yeah.
I could not believe what I was watching. You know what I'm saying? So fast forward a couple years later, I started playing organ full time and get my chops up, but I was just on the organ, right? Just doing my thing on the organ. And just trying to keep my head above water. Like Dr. Young was just really hard to play for. She was always, you know, and I wasn't Daryl, and he was phenomenal, and she reminded me every time that I wasn't him. You know what I mean?
To let you know it.
And it was crazy. But I started getting better, and then I hooked up with Lauren Dawson.
And another one. Lauren Dawson.
You know what I'm saying? And these dudes are funny, man. These young guys, they really don't know, like, the guys.
The cats.
You know what I'm saying?
The cat. Those are names I drop all the time. People say, who? I say Lauren Dawson. I say Joe Wilson. John P. All these dudes. Like, who?
Shame
but on that whole simp thing, like Lauren was on another page. And Joe was like, he was like the blueprint.
For real.
For what a lot of cats started doing later on.
For real. And what happened was I was hanging out with Lauren. We were playing in this. I was in his band. He was MDing this what you call those open mic type things. He was MDing this band. We were doing this open mic together, and so one day I was hanging out with him at his church. He was at Community at the time, and he was just playing, and it was cool. You know, they had the click track going and stuff, and it was cute. But yo, man, his pastor kind of got happy, right? And he was playing, and he kind of like turned the corner, and then he brought up the strings, and I was instantly at St. Paul's again. Like, my mind went, I was like,
back to Joe.
Oh, shoot. I forgot church sounded like, because I was just on the organ. I wasn't thinking, man. Yeah. From that day, I was like, I need a keyboard. I need my modules. Like, I went crazy because Lauren reminded me of what I grew up hearing Joe do. So now this is like 2006, 2007. Then I got the job at Straight Gate, and they didn't really like the organ.
Yeah, wasn't organ.
That wasn't their thing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that really got me like into sounds. You know what I'm saying? And then I got hip to like Mike and Jason and those dudes, and you know what I mean? And then it just was like a rabbit hole of finding, and then, like I grew up, I studied, Alex Asaph Ward for years, and the Everlasting Life album was really like sonically, it was like, I mean, forget musically, right? Musically it was on a different page, but sonically it was like how it sounded.
Yeah. And
the sounds he was using was so above board. Like it was so far away.
He's another one of those cats.
You know what I'm saying?
That just was like who is this crazy dude?
I sat with a young bull, right? I ain't gonna say his name, but I sat with a young bull, and we was kind of talking and sharing, whatever. And he said, "Yo, where you get that's crazy, Ren? Where you get?" I was like, "That's Asaph Ward stuff." And he was like, "Who?" And I was like, "What?" He was like, "Who's that?" I was like, "Bruh,
do your history.
What are you doing? What are you?" So I started asking him, like, "You know Thomas Whitfield?" He was like, "Nah, I don't know."
Yeah.
Bruh.
And that's the one thing I say is different in church and in jazz. In jazz, because I used to do Barry Harris class, and their focus was on the pioneers. They educated you on who was before me,
right?
Who was doing this, and they build upon that. In gospel, we hear, oh, this guy is dope, and we don't realize that guy comes from somewhere. Like people, like the younger generation, they know Mike, but they don't know Kevin Bond.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy to me.
It's all on that same tree. No, they don't play exactly the same, but it's building upon. Those were just next steps.
Yeah.
So it's like, do your history, study these earlier cats and what they were doing, because some of them were pioneers in their time.
Yeah. I mean, I tell guys all the time, especially the young guys that be hanging around. I'm kind of like their big brother. I tell them, like, my lineage, is Daryl Young, is Derek Garbo, is Sean Murray, is Mark Murray. Really, he's the OG.
Murray, yeah.
Right,
Mark Murray.
For this area, for Westchester, right? He's there is no Daryl Young, there is no Sean Murray, there's no Damon Mack, without Mark Murray. Right? So Mark, he's the OG. Every time I see him, I bow down, no matter what. Jimmy Farley, is another dude, right?
Jim McFarlane,
that
yeah.
people don't know about. But you know, I could trace, you know, Daryl, Derek, Sean, right, and then, you know, Joe Wilson is another. Asaph Ward is another. Mike was kind of like the last influence for me, and that was kind of like the icing on the cake. I had already had a foundation, both playing wise and sonically.
Yeah.
But he just gave me that last bit of lacquer. You know what I'm saying? And that's what guys hear the most, you know, when they hear me play. It's like, oh, you sound like Mike. That's true, but there's some other stuff in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a hodgepodge.
For sure. And you know,
learn down through the years.
and then there's Chick, right? There's Chick Corea, there's Russell Ferrante, there's Claire Fisher, right? There's Lyle Mays, right? And all of these dudes, again, I gravitate more to guys that are not just players.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm not an Art Tatum fan.
You're not Art Tatum.
And he's the greatest piano player in the world ever to live. But that's not my bag.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not an Oscar Peterson dude. It's not my thing. Right? I'm more about sound. Like, right. So the guys I like, they're into keyboards as well as the piano.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so me, one of the coming from church, watching Joe Wilson, watching him do his thing, right, on O1W and the Trinity and the Triton, you know what I'm saying, and the MK80, like, you know what I'm saying, just, and then he had a Kurzweil, I think a PC88 for a long while. And if you go on YouTube, you'll see me like standing in the corner of some of those videos, like, you know what I mean? So I watched him for years, and I picked off another album was the SOP, the Sounds of Praise Chorale.
Yeah.
That's like 95, right, 1995, and the stuff that was going on that album, people still are not doing today. You know what I'm saying?
I remember when they came to GMWA, him, Jeff Davis, the bass, man, they rocked that place so hard.
Tore that room
people
up.
Like, who are these people from Jersey?
Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? So I stole sounds from there. Matter of fact, I got a sound on here on the Omnisphere thing. It's called Joe's Port. And it's after Joe Wilson. It's a patch. It's on the song I'm Not the Same. In the verse, he played this. Like he was bending, but it was like down a half, down a fifth, and I never forgot that. You know what I'm saying? Every keyboard I've ever had, I make that sound.
Put that sound in there.
And so I watched him, but then I got into like the big dogs. Like I got into like Chick and them dudes, and I watched the Electric Workshop video where he was like layering the TX-816 and the Synclavier, and you know what I'm saying? Like that's where I got my start, like really trying to develop sound. You know what I mean? And once I retired from playing in church, like I said, I was looking for income, and guys are always coming up to me, yo, man, how did you get that sound? Yo, told me how to do, you know, can you give me? And I was being stingy, I ain't gonna lie, right?
I ain't giving you my sound.
I was like, why would I do that? And then I'm gonna be out, like, you're gonna push me out. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm a share, obviously, I shared the peanut butter stuff and did a bunch of that, but my essence, I never gave away. You know what I'm saying? But I felt like it was time for me to kind of make that palette available.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I noticed guys, I would hear stuff on YouTube and hear stuff on like Instagram and everything, and you know, you hear the short pianos, you know, tick 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 tick, and you know that kind of stuff.
Cutting off.
You know, tinny synth sounds and stuff. And guys can play their butts off,
but
right? And they get young. They don't sound good. Right, you know what I'm saying? Like you got your stream, it's in mono. Like, you know, it's just, you know, you're not even. I remember one time I was working with a dude for a recording. I wasn't playing, but he was setting up his keyboard in mono.
Wow.
My God, what are you doing, bro? Like left and right.
You're missing half the
exactly.
sound.
You know what I'm saying? So.